Dalston Peace Mural, which you will have passed on your arrival today, and we've got a fascinating panel here to introduce and tell you about the story. And it's very exciting because Roland is the son of the artist Ray Walker, who got that mural up there and was commissioned to create it and research it and design it. He has, and his mother have donated a collection to Hackney Archives, so some of it is on display over there, which you'll be able to have a look at, and we'll be working on making the rest of it accessible for people to come and look at and discover and have an amazing, exciting experience, which Peter has shown you can have at Hackney Archives when you get to see all the amazing stuff that we have. So I'm going to hand over to Laurie, who's the chair for this panel, and we're really excited to hear more about this mural.
Thank you. I'm going to put on a big voice, and I'm hoping nobody's going to complain they can't hear me. But if you can't, then say. So, good afternoon. I'm Laurie Elks, a history buff, and I'm going to ask a local history buff. I'm going to ask my two speakers to introduce themselves and explain what they have to do with the mural. And I'm going to start with Alan.
Oh, hello. I'm Alan May. That's me. I was basically baritone sax with the Chats Arkestra. We grew up in Chats Palace. Al Rossett over there. Al, goes away. I used to work with Alan at Chats Palace, and we developed an orchestra for anyone who wanted to play, no matter what their experience was. So we had been playing for a couple of years, and we were invited as were a number of organisations. Like Freeform Arts Trust, who at one point were just up the road here on Dalston Lane, and Pyramid Arts, which is a music organisation, and lots of other projects were involved. The musicians you see here are largely from those music organisations. So the parade took place, and it went from. Where did it start, Laurie?
I think it started at Dalston here, more or less, and ended up at Hackney.
Okay, yeah, or it might have started at Town Hall. Maybe it started on Dalston Lane. Yeah, and it walked to
Alan is immortalised, especially if you're on the top deck of a 38 bus. Have you offered your profile, Alan?
I don't know yet. I didn't bring the saxophone.
Where's the t-shirt?
He is the most memorable image in an utterly brilliant mural, in my opinion. Right, and here we have.
Is it possible you could all use the mic? Just so we got some kind of hearing.
Okay.
Use the mic. Thank you so much. We want to really hear what you're saying. So.
Sure. Can you hear me now? Yeah. So this is me, about age 8. Yeah. So this is me about age 8. I obviously look a little bit different now. So.
Stand up. Let's have a look at you.
And this is my mum in front of me. So obviously I'm the son of Ray Walker and Anna Walker. Ray Walker being the designer of the Hackney Peace Mural, and my mum being one of the painters, the two painters. I grew up in Beck Road, which is an artist community on the other side of London Fields. Obviously that area used to be quite a downtrodden area, now obviously very much far from that. I left for travel about age 24. I went to Australia, where I now live, and lived in Japan for a bit, and I envisaged I'd probably be away for a couple of years, and I've been away ever since. So I've actually sort of kind of come back for this, and because the mural is turning 40. So it's quite a landmark year. And Ray, my father, would also be 80 this year. So there's quite a few different things kind of happening within the mural. So I think we're going to talk about that, aren't we, Laurie?
Okay, right. I'm just going to. I'm not.
Use the mic.
This is Ray. This is Ray, who was the principal artist who did all the sketches for the mural. Now, I'm going to give you a bit of background to this mural, and we don't so often think about this chap now, but in 1981 there were elections to the GLC. The Tories were up for re-election and they lost. And the leader of the Labour group was a man called Andrew Mackintosh, who in modern terms you describe as a Blairite. And he was elected on the very first day. The Labour group deposed him and put this chap up instead. And he was a Livingstonite, you know, he wasn't an anythingite except himself. And Ken Livingstone appointed Tony Banks, who's no longer with us, as to be the cabinet member of the GLC for Culture. And that was in 1981, and as many of you here will remember, there were 6 glorious years in which Ken and Maggie picked quarrels with each other about buses, about culture, about peace, about the poll tax and whatever. And then Maggie, who was an adversary and also the umpire, brought the contest to an end by abolishing the GLC. 1983 was designated by the GLC as a peace year, and London was radiated with images like this: keep London out of the killing ground. Hackney, which was run by an enthusiastic bunch at that time, declared itself a nuclear-free zone, and Mrs. Thatcher in the meanwhile was inviting the Americans to install Pershing and cruise missiles, and the Greenham women were patrolling the perimeter of Greenham Common. So the whole question, and CND underwent a considerable revival, having become a little bit moribund in the 70s. It really had a revival as a result of the deployment of cruise missiles in the United Kingdom. Now I'm going to ask you, Roland, to tell us what... I meant to put this image up. There was a very active muralist scene around London, and Freeform, who are a Hackney-based organisation, were a part of this. This is called Red... Nuclear Dawn. This is an example. It's not part of the GLC programme, but there were many murals which were put up in the early 80s, most of which unfortunately no longer exist. Now, before I hand back to Roland, Tony Banks commissioned 5 murals, and of which the Dalston Peace Mural was one. I'll hand it back to you now, Roland.
I'm aware that we might have missed out here, but we can pick up later, right? It was a time of change, oppression, and difficulty, and I think that shows in a lot of these works, these peace murals. This is Ray at work on, I think, the Chicksand mural, which was just near Brick Lane. We're moving really quite fast through the slides. Too fast, yeah. We've missed a big chunk out, Laurie. Yeah. We're not sticking to the script. I think so. I think let's because I think what we're going to do is we're going to explain kind of like the times. I think Alan was, this is.
We're being filmed. We better not allow stuff. Alan, tell us a bit more about the day.
Well, the day itself, wherever we started from, I can't remember. I remember coming down Dalston Lane, and so there were lots of prominent musicians, some of whom we sadly lost. So I'd like to just say right now, Steve Murray, with the Trilby hat, we'll see later, and Jar Globe, 2 great musicians and performers. Have we got any of Globe's family here or friends? Did they make it today? No. We've got. I think we've got Max here, Steve's son. Yeah, and we've got Becca over here. Hi, Becca. And yeah, so it was a wonderful atmosphere, and we had freeform also. We'll talk about what they made for the, which is a central image. Yeah, the main feature of the musicians was playing a piece of music that was written by Jar Globe called Celebration Time. And we're currently working on a new version of that, which we will hear in September. We'll tell you more about that later.
Yeah. And I'd just like to say as well, like, why myself, my mother, and my father are in the mural. So this was never Ray's plan to incorporate us into the mural. This happened as an addition afterwards. Because my father sadly died before he could paint the mural. So my mother and a good friend of ours, Mick Jones, painted the mural as a memorial to Ray. And so that's why we're in it as kind of a family. So I think we'll probably sort of touch upon that a little bit more in more depth.
Now I have to pick up the threads again. So we have here Ray at work and a self-portrait of him on the scaffold. Now, Alan, let's go back to Ray's previous work. Thank you.
Yep. So, yeah, my father, he had a difficult upbringing. His life spanned the post-war period, and this was reflected in his art. He was the eldest child of a working-class family from Liverpool. He grew up in a place called Toxteth, which was really quite an impoverished area of Liverpool. He painted from an early age, I think, to sort of brighten the drab environment he found himself in. He was very, he was a socialist from an early age. He went to, funnily enough, he went to grammar school, which is really quite an achievement for somebody from such a working class background. And one of his teachers said, "I have not had a student since who showed such drive and singleness of purpose." Funnily enough, he used to be in a band called the Flintstones, which played before the Beatles in the Cavern Club. And he used the money to fund his his art college education at the Liverpool Arts College. So there's many strands to Ray, and he really did pack a lot into his 39 years. So yeah, he went to the art school, and then later on he went to the Royal College of Arts from 66 to 69. And his work as an oil painter during that period was usually on a really large scale, and his canvases portraying elements of fantasy and realism, quite fascinating works of art. So he's a very skilled painter, and of course this put him in really good stead for what he later embarked upon, which is the mural painting. So yeah, he completed some early works and then embraced working on a really large scale. So he really took this, he wanted to create public art for the public. He didn't want art to be in the limitations of a gallery space. So he was really trying to get out of this sort of formalistic gallery mentality. And he'd had some success in that field, but he felt that this was not what art was about. He wanted the art to be for the people. So he really took on he really embraced this working outside for the community. And he based a lot of his designs and inspiration on community projects, and this is why he got so involved with a lot of kind of community-based projects. I'll hand you back.
I haven't, Roland, asked you about London Muralists for Peace and the commissioning of the mural. So can you tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah. So the GLC declared 1983 a peace year, and as a result, they had a budget for a series of murals. And there are actually 5 of these. And let me see if I can name them. So Nuclear Dawn was a precursor to these 5 murals. And these were done by the London Muralists for Peace and commissioned by the GLC. And one of them was the British Telecom building. This was done by Paul Butler. Another one was in Brixton, Riders of the Apocalypse by Brian Barnes. Lewisham, that one. Wind of Peace, which was in Greenwich, and that's Steve Lobb, Carol Kenner. Of course, we've got the Hackney Peace Mural as one of them, and that was Ray doing the designs, and then Anna Walker and Mick Jones doing the painting. And War and Peace, which is Pauline Harding and Dale McRae in Lambeth. And to my knowledge, sadly, only Riders of the Apocalypse still exists. So we've lost 3 of the 5, which is a shame. Unfortunately, these murals, because they are outdoors, they do deteriorate, and this is a problem because they need repainting on a regular basis. Unfortunately, only photo records remain of the other ones. So this is one of Ray's murals, the Chicksand mural. This was just around the corner from Brick Lane. It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. It got teared down for redevelopment. It's called The Promised Land, and it depicts a scene where immigrants from Pakistan, Bangladesh would come over, and they'd experience racism, and they'd experience a environment far removed from the title Promised Land. And it also has elements of fall of empire, capitalism. It's a very kind of politically charged mural. And this is where Ray really found his style and his skill. He started on the left and made his way over to the right. And you can see within that kind of time period, it really developed this kind of incredibly kind of dynamic style. Maybe we can move on to the next slide. Yeah, so this is a kind of up close part of the right hand side of the mural, depicting a British bulldog and a Bangladeshi tiger, kind of in conflict. There's a lot of racial abuse happening in that area, a very downtrodden area that kind of the government had kind of forgotten about. My dad said that dead rats, rubbish, dead cats. It was just kind of a forgotten area. So he took it upon himself to give that a voice, to really try and sort of brighten up a very drab environment. And he'd consult. It wasn't just he'd impress this upon the community. He'd actually sort of go out and ask the community what they wanted on the wall. So a lot of his designs were based upon this. Yeah, so this is the Peasants' Revolt, which depicts a piece of British history in the 1300s, and with the peasants rising up against the rich landowners, and so it's challenging the status quo. Again, very politically charged. This was on a side of a salt silo, and the salt actually sort of erased the picture. Within the space of a few years, there was nothing left. So, it's gone.
And the lessons of experience from that were applied in the Dalston Peace Mural, as we'll come to. Because the Dalston Peace Mural is wonderfully well preserved. And let's look at this one.
So, this is the Battle of Cable Street mural. Obviously this is on Cable Street, where the battle took place. This is in the 1930s. Fascists and mixture of Jewish and anti-fascists, and Ray painted the bottom left-hand corner of this mural. So we've got elements of again, kind of people coming together and rising up against oppression and persecution. The first muralist to start on this was a person called Steve Billington. Steve Billington, I think. Paul Billington, yes, okay. Mixing up my Pauls and my Steves. Alright. So he started on it, and he'd done quite a lot of work. And then the fascists actually defaced it. And he was so upset and, affected by it that he gave up on the project entirely. And so then it was left up to 3 muralists. My dad was one, and Ray Walker, Paul Butler, and Desmond Rochford took up the baton and painted the mural on Dave Billington's design. Paul Billington, it was in limbo for quite some time before these 3 muralists stepped up and painted it. The former muralist, actually, he was so affected by it, he actually changed his name. He thought he was going to be sort of persecuted for the rest of his life by the fascists, so it really did affect him.
Working up a scaffold with a lot of hostile people around takes some courage. I do like the policeman getting a fist in the face there. That's So let's go forward from this. Ray got the commission to do the Dalston Peace Mural as part of the celebration of the Peace Year. 1983 was celebrated as the Peace Year, and there was a Dalston Peace Carnival on that year. Now, Alan, can you tell us what's going on here and how this comes into the mural?
Yeah, well, that is one of the central images on the mural. Well, I'm sure we'll get to it, but you can see in the front there is Heather McAdam is in the red, gold, and green, and they built this structure which has got sharks and wolves and nuclear missiles, and it came through the streets and ended up on, was this Hackney Fields?
Daubeny Fields.
No, it's not Daubeny Fields, it was Hackney Fields, I think it ended.
Hackney
Downs, thank you. I've been away for 40 years, you've got to give me some slack. And so it's brought through, the carnival came through, came here, and then the whole thing was destroyed as a performance art piece, and that was the end of that. Let's move on to the next one. So this is Jar Globe. So Jar Globe wasn't part of the orchestra as such, but he was a dear friend, and I played in a number of bands with him. A terrific saxophonist. I've got incredible experiences of rehearsals times with him. Yeah, sad loss when he died. And he, as I say, he wrote the celebration time song, which we're bringing back to the streets of Hackney in a few months' time. Do you want to move that
Just
on?
to prompt you, this is Dalton Fields, isn't it?
Yeah, so this will be the Hackney Marsh Fun Festival. So I do remember, at one point there was a guy who said, "Can I just take a photo of you?" And that would have been Ray. And he was taking photos as source material. So there's a number of, you can move on. Yeah, there's a number of people in here.
So this is John Grove at the Dalton Fields Hackney Marsh Fun Festival.
Yeah, so there on the left with the Panama hat on is Steve Murray. Now go back again, please. So that's Steve Murray with the Panama hat playing trumpet, and his brother Chris on the other side playing trumpet. Now Chris is going to come back and play with us in September, which is good. I've found him in Cardiff. He's making the trip back, and there's a few other musicians there. I can't make out that clearly. Yeah, move on. Yeah, and so the sketches were made from those drawings. Which you'll see develop later. The character on the right playing trombone is a guy called George, used to play with us, and he's in the photo he's wearing a baseball cap, but that evolves. I am jumping ahead. All right, just bear with me. So that will develop as we see the design develop. And here's some more sketches. These lovely drawings. Yeah. So there's Globe, nice and close. That's me, an early version.
I think you're exactly the same, really.
Thank you.
Missing the sax.
I'm breathing my stomach in here as you speak. Yeah, so, and that's me. And in front of me there is a wonderful woman who used to work at Chats Palace with me and Alan, Daisy Caradis. I haven't seen her for years, but she was a dear friend. My daughter was born 40 years ago. Hello, Lucy. And we decided we didn't want to get out of London, and we moved to Bristol. 2 weeks before we moved, someone said, "Oh, we got the unveiling of that mural," and they'd taken the scaffolding down. And you go, "That's me up there." So the wonderful thing was we came to the opening, and I left London, but my image remained. So I phoned friends up, and they say, "Oh, we had a chat with you as we went past on the 22." So that's been a wonderful thing for me, and some friends, other friends. I've got, I now play with Bristol Reggae Orchestra in Bristol, and we've got a Windrush Reggae Choir, and one of my dear friends who's here today. Hi. Tells me about her being, when she was a schoolgirl, she used to walk past it every day, and now she's met me, which is a lovely sort of circular thing. Yeah. The woman playing congas in the front is from is a friend of was involved with Freeform. She's from Jubilee Arts playing congas up in Birmingham. Yeah, move on. Yeah, there's Daisy again, and there's the conga woman again. Yeah. And there's Steve. Yeah, so Steve was a great performer. He was in lots of shows at Chats Palace. He was a great street performer. He played with his own bands like Washout, and he was also head of arts in Tower Hamlets. What a career he had. He's been a great loss. And there's Matthew Weir playing tenor horn. I don't know whatever happened to Matthew. Anyone know what happened to Matthew? There's another trombonist there who's slightly hidden. That was a friend of yours, wasn't it? Who you said was playing trombone with us.
So Mel Robinson was a regular down the George. He sadly died a year or two ago, but he was also a great artist. His son, in fact, still runs an art studio locally, and he had a retrospective exhibition down on the park down by the canal down in Mile End, whatever it's called.
Thank you.
I should say, just interjecting for a moment, that there are a number of faces in the mural who haven't been identified yet. Quite a lot of people have been working on it. For instance, a chap with the John Lennon glasses. Nobody, to my knowledge, has identified him. So if you happen to know or think you might know any of the faces in the mural,
it would be very interesting to tell us. Oh, that's Dylan there. Now, Dylan was the son of Di Lockwood. Thank you, Di Lockwood, who used to do a lot of things with us at Chats Palace, lots of work, lots of projects, and Dylan is in a mask that was made at Chats Palace. So he would have probably been on that Hackney Marsh Fun Festival parade.
He was one of the Chats Palace kids, as it were, wasn't it? There were loads of kids involved in Chats Palace.
Yeah, there's one who works here. I met earlier. Yeah. Yeah, so there's George, and you can see the baseball cap has evolved over the years as we're approaching the years of the miners' strike, really, and they put that's been put on as a bit of topical interest.
Roland, can you tell us about some of the other themes in the mural?
Yeah, so my father had real trouble finding a spot for the mural in the first place. He tried multiple locations, and the time was ticking away, and a lot of the other peace murals were actually underway, and Ray was yet to find a location, and he really scoured the area for potential places to paint it, but you come up against a lot of kind of difficulties. You know, there's a lot of red tape even then. Some people, not wanting the mural being painted, it was really difficult for him to search for one. But he finally found the spot, and thankfully it's just across the road here. Otherwise, potentially it could have gone. Like a lot of the other murals. A lot of it depends upon the community embracing it. If the community embraces it, kind of helps its longevity, and that's what's happened with this peace mural. I think it, as testimony to the subject material, and it being kind of incorporated into the environment and the society that is in that environment. So he used a revolutionary Kime paint, pigment-based paint as well. It was vibrant, a very vibrant kind of paint. Until then, a lot of the murals had been painted with paint that would just deteriorate after a short amount of time. This paint almost lasted as long as the wall. I mean, this mural has probably been painted three times in its 40-year history, and that's testimony to this revolutionary kind of Kime paint. So the scaffolding went up, and the render was put on, everything was in place, but unfortunately my father died before he could paint it. So it was in limbo, and it took a while for my mother and a friend of hers to step forward and decide to paint this mural as a memorial. So it pushed back the date of completion, and my mum had just finished art school, and so she had skills. And Mick Jones was an accomplished muralist, a very good friend of Ray's, similar political outlook, and they took it upon themselves to paint this mural with some additions. And some of the additions are this person that we can see here, Bruce Kent. He was a Catholic priest and a political activist. He was a campaigner for nuclear disarmament and the General Secretary between 1980 and 1985. Unfortunately Bruce passed away in 2022 in Haringey, so he was a local. There's also an East London poet in the mural called Gladys McGee. She was part of FAP, Tower Hamlets Arts Project, who Ray was really affiliated with. I remember going down there as a kid actually to Fat Bookshop down in Mile End. We've also got Gandhi, who is peering out of a window in the top left section of the mural. Sorry, we haven't got a slide to show you of that. We've got here the Buddha. So the Buddha obviously is a very prominent symbol of peace, and this was incorporated by Mick because Mick was a Buddhist, and his Buddhist name was Durangama. He was a Buddhist with the True Buddhist community. So also in the foreground, just here, there's the Indian community is represented. And these are all like later additions that Mick had put into the mural. We've got references to the TUC, we've got references to troops out of Ireland. This political theme is really kind of like throughout this mural. Yeah.
The more you see, the more you look. Now, Roland, maybe we should go forward a couple of slides here. I'll take over just a moment. Ray prepared the sketches as a representation of the Peace March. He obviously wasn't going to sit there with an easel and do the work as it went by. The work reflects the itinerary of the Peace March to some extent. These are Navarino mansions. This is a picture which was taken by Ray, and that's in Dalston Lane, and that was picked up there. So I'm taking this over, forgive me. This is actually the railway bridge in Beck Road. I don't think the march went anywhere near Beck Road, but I think it's pretty clear. Ray took this photo. It's pretty clear that the bridge there is not the railway bridge in Dalston Lane by Navarino Mansions, which looks completely different. This is the Beck Road bridge. And what else would you like to pick out in that image, Roland?
Yeah, it might be on display afterwards to look at, but we've got a stilt walker on the left-hand side. This was an actual person. This was an actual person on a C&D march, and we're yet to find him. If anyone knows the stilt walker, please make themselves known, because in the picture that you might see afterwards, he's on huge stilts. I can't even imagine being up that high. So yeah, it's just quite interesting that a lot of these people are real people. They're not, fictional characters. Here we've got more references to the environment, which is at the time, I guess, quite sort of progressive. We've got ecology, Greenpeace, jobs not bombs. These are all kind of things that at that time were, current. We've got a reference to the transport workers with the, you can probably see it on the bottom right-hand corner. Yeah, bottom right-hand corner of the transport. British Rail, yeah.
No, of course, that's the freeform carnival image that we saw earlier being demolished.
Yeah, there's just like a beast of burden, this kind of effigy being kind of carried here. It's kind of carrying arms and weapons of mass destruction, and united, perhaps we have the power to sort of change from a power mode to a love mode, or peace mode, I should say. Yeah.
I just say there is going to be an after party in the Curve Garden, which takes us past the Peace Mural. The more you look, the more you see. I mean, it's only a detail, but NUPE of Hackney, nuclear free zone, is absolutely ecology. Greenpeace is absolutely packed with things. So go back there with binoculars sometime and pick it all out. So, Roland.
Yeah, this was a kind of final watercolour A lot of these preliminary sketches and watercolours and works were submitted to the GLC throughout the kind of design process, and also to community groups. He'd often go to the community groups with the sketches and ask their opinion. You know, what do you want changed? What you know, what can we do to make this you know, really something that you're going to embrace? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this is my mum. Obviously, she painted the mural with Mick Jones, and I just wanted to. She's here in the audience, but she wanted me to tell you a little bit about painting the mural, the actual you know, difficulty in painting the mural. So we painted the mural through the winter months, and the wind chill up on the scaffolding was pretty cold sometimes. So I wore a lot of layers of clothes and fingerless gloves. The paint we used was Kind paint, which was a mineral-based powder with distilled water, then painted on a special render, which was made from calcined flint and river-washed sand. The paint sank into the render, and it was almost like painting a fresco. The colours of the pigments were all the range you would get from the oil paints I had been using in my final year at art college. You could thin the paint to initially draw out the images before then actually painting, and applying a wash of watered down pigment, and then begin the actual painting with thicker paint from mixing more powder with the distilled water. So it's a really kind of elaborate process, not like kind of, you know, just picking up a paintbrush and dipping it into a thing. This is mixing it on site. The paint had to be sprayed with ammonia at the end of each day, which Mick did wearing a mask. We started at the top of the mural and worked our way down. Mick painted the very top section entirely, while I was drawing out and painting the images and figures below. And often, when I left in the afternoon to collect Roland from primary school, cycling through London fields and alongside Victoria Park to Lauriston Primary School, Mick would continue to work on my figures and images. So in effect, we both worked on most of the mural. The composition was based on Ray's original design, and we used his preliminary sketches and photos from the Peace Carnival March. I didn't actually know who the characters were in the photos, although now I've been finding out who they are. So that's quite interesting too. There was no running water, but we used an old oil drum full of rainwater to wash our brushes in it. This is in the site of the now Curve Garden. And nowhere to store the paint, so Mick kept it in his car. Up on the scaffolding there was enough space between the boards to paint the large images, although obviously you couldn't step back very far to see the whole thing. And from the ground, the scaffold boards and poles slightly obscured being able to see the entire mural, so really difficult, you know, it's got this kind of huge images, but very up close that you can't really see because of all of the scaffolding there. And she says also, when the scaffolding came down, it was amazing to see the final product. Yeah.
We put this image in just to allude to the fact that when Anna and Mick were commissioned by the GLC to complete the mural following Ray's death, the miners' strike was the big event of the year. It was the dominant event of the year, and just put that up, and that's when what happened? The baseball cap became a miner's helmet. So yeah. Before we go on to the afterlife of the mural, Alan, is there anything else you want to say about about the day itself? You were there.
No, it was great having such a wide range of musicians, and we had that unifying tune that brought us all together. Obviously, we did have a repertoire of stuff that we did play, but yeah, I don't remember much about the band, to be honest. I don't remember much about it apart from Dalston Lane. It was when we started off. Yeah. So
what was Dalston like in those days?
Different. Lots of different buildings.
Okay. So Roland, this mural has.
We're winding up, I think.
Right, this mural has. Yeah, we're nearly there. This mural has had an afterlife. Will you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we're kind of in the present day now. Well, March 1997, it says on the bus map. Yeah, so it's been used in a lot of different things, including kind of bus maps. I've seen library cards. I'm glad it's being used. You know, the more it's seen, the more it kind of protects its longevity. You know, like it's great that it's still held in such high regard, and I guess its message today is more important than ever, with wars raging around the world, and we've got obviously, you know, the powerhouse that is the United States kind of pulling all the strings. Yeah, it's worth kind of reflecting upon, you know, how well, yeah, of course things have changed, but in some ways not. Of course, Rudimental, the album, this was kind of very, in its lifespan, this was a kind of, you know, a very exciting time that the mural was kind of held in such high regard by the band. I saw an advert for this album flash up in Sydney, Australia, and I knew nothing about it being used. So of course I quizzed my mum, she knew nothing, and well, thankfully the band were really quite, you know, it wasn't just a PR sort of spin and people wanted to, you know, use it that weren't kind of connected to it. It was actually the band that chose the image, because they felt it represented what they call home. They're all from around this area, and I was fine with it, but I was also aware, you can see a lot of the graffiti down the bottom of the mural, and there was quite a lot of deterioration within other parts of the mural. I just said, well, you know, if you guys like it so much, do you want to donate some money for its restoration?
You had a little discussion about copyright with them, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's featured quite prominently in front and centre. There's not really much kind of general view going on there. So, you know, it was just a question of kind of saying, well, you know, it's being used, and, you know, how would you consider making a donation towards its restoration? And they were, after a bit of toing and froing, they agreed to it. So thankfully, this paid for quite a large, partly paid for quite a large restoration about 10 or 15 years ago now. And
2014. To give the Hackney Council their due, they did take the lead on this, but with financial support from the record company.
Yeah. So yeah, I really tried to, you know, to. So yeah, they paid for, and thankfully, you know, with that money, and Paul Butler was one of the was the painter that, and he had worked with Ray on the Cable Street mural, and he's a highly skilled muralist, so it was in real safe hands with his expertise. And really what we see today is testimony to his restoration. But I am aware, I took some pictures just the other day. Some of the top section now, again, it actually needs more work. So it's one of those things that's in a constant state of flux between being kind of, you know, I guess, very visually appealing, and then, you know, part of it's kind of deteriorating at the same time. So it will need constant attention. It's like a plant that needs constant care, you know, and it really depends upon, you know, the community, whether they, you know, still value it enough to, you know, to keep it. It's keep it alive.
So Alan, I know I'm being furiously gesticulated over there. I'm not looking. We've nearly finished. The 40th anniversary. What are you going to be doing?
Well, yeah. So the weekend of the 27th and 28th of September is actually the 40th anniversary. There's going to be a number of events happening. Hopefully, we'll get all the funding we want to make that happen. There'll be a series of workshops happening on the Saturday here. And other activities, so watch out for it. And then on the Sunday, there's as part of the Ashwin Street Festival's happening. There'll be a band I'm putting together with some amazing local musicians and some of the old musicians that used to play with the orchestra, as I mentioned. We'll be playing on the Saturday in the afternoon at the mural at the unveiling of a new plaque, and later on in the afternoon as part of in the evening as part of the festival. So. Hope to see some of you down there. Should be a guess.
And in particular, what will you be playing? What particular
I couldn't
song?
possibly divulge. I think I've already said it, haven't I?
Yeah. So Al has kept the music, and celebration will be performed on the 40th anniversary. I think we're done. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.